Welcome to this episode of Let's Chat. I'm your host, Chris Revel, coming from the Cat Cave in Warwick, Rhode Island. Let's Chat is a conversational chat with guests from the worlds of punk rock, podcasting, and pop culture. We got a wonderful episode today with director, writer, Mike Sineka, a fucking awesome dude. We had a lot of fun on this episode. So Mike has a new film out called I'll Be Around, and it is so good. And I'm not just saying that. I fucking love this movie. This is a really great movie. Even if you didn't grow up in like the punk scene like myself did, I think you're still gonna like it. There's a lot of nostalgia. It really kind of made you, man. It made me miss that part of my life, being that young and just fucking hanging out all day, going to shows or a festival or something. It's fucking nuts. And this movie's crazy because people who he got to be in this movie include J Mascis from Dinosaur Jr., Jonah Ray from Mystery Science Theater 3000. I mean, I was a fan of Jonah since The Nerdist early on. Frank Agnew of the Adolescents, Corey Rogers from DI, and punk icon Pleasant Gehman Pleasant Gehman. We are man, and we also got to be joined by our good buddy Shaun Colón from Up That Rec. So if anyone has been listening to the show, he's on our last episode with John Nix, the director of Beyond Barricades, which is actually out now on VOD. So go get that if you can. It's really fucking good. And then we did the punk rock documentary filmmakers roundtable. So there's a good like 3 week period where Shaun and I spent a lot of time together. We recorded 2 podcasts and did the roundtable. All these were recorded out of order. So when we recorded this episode with Mike, the punk rock doc roundtable didn't exist yet. So that's why you may will hear no mention of it. So big thanks for Shaun for being so fucking awesome to us and stick coming out. Find Mike on the internet. He said his biggest thing is the letterbox, but he does have an official Facebook page as well. We'll put all that stuff in the links, in the links. And check out this movie. It's really fun, especially now, especially with COVID. There's something nostalgia about it. Like this movie would have hit before the pandemic just perfectly, but now that the pandemic has happened, there's something about this movie that makes it somehow just a little bit more warm. Mike's done a lot of crazy good shit. And what a really nice guy. I couldn't get over it. He was so generous at this time, super wonderful. I can't thank him enough for coming on. So keep following all his good work. As for us, a little housekeeping. We've been really busy here at Let's Chat. So for those who don't know, Let's Chat with Chris Rebel, the podcast was founded in 2013 by me, and then a few months ago, I ended up making this wonderful team that consists of Brianna Benjamin, Christopher Ball, and Mike Schwartz. And the four of us, with help some other good friends, have been working our asses off tirelessly. We now have a new series on YouTube called Let's Chat Present, where we interview Chris Ball and Bree Poe, and Mike and I. We kind of rotate hosts and stuff. You'll see more Bree and Ball on there than I and Mike. But we interview fellow podcasters in the up and coming, and we're doing some really cool stuff online. We're just fucking busy. We got some real big announcements coming up, some big stuff in December. We cannot wait to announce with everyone. And make sure you follow us online at Let's Chat Podcast, at Let's Chat Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're on Patreon, Let's Chat Pod. Please donate if you can. And you can make sure we also, our Let's Chat Present has a page on Twitter at Let's Chat Live. And you can check out producer Bree's podcast, Talking Shit with Bree and Nessa on YouTube. And, man, what else do I say? I'm rambling. Anyway, find us online, letschatpodcast.net. We'll find all the good stuff, and let's get to it. I just mentioned it briefly. When this came through and like seeing all like the names pop up, all the punk rock, and like I'm like huge movie fan, but come from the punk rock scene. But Shaun's my filmmaker buddy here. He made a Fat Wreck, I would say, about Fat Wreck Records, and I was like, oh my god, we gotta bring Shaun because you know way more about film, and we can all talk about punk rock. So this is gonna be fucking awesome. Mike, do you actually want to introduce say your name first so people can just tell everyone's voices apart?
Mike Cuenca over here.
Ooh. Good, Shaun.
Shaun Colón.
Ooh, good. Yeah. So, Mike, holy fuck, is your movie awesome? Just first off the bat, I'll be around. Like, you knocked it out of the fucking park. First off.
All right, thanks.
So, like, I don't know. I'm just gonna jump into it. How the hell did you get J Mascis in a movie?
Ooh, that was actually an easy one because it really was because I reached out to his management team and I was like, oh, by the way, we named this movie after a Wipers song, and Mascis is a gigantic Wipers fan. So and we told him it was a small pitch of what it was about and what it dealt with, and that was kind of a throwback to like early '90s type of movies, and he immediately jumped on board. So that was going to be the interesting part too, because, Mascis is not known to be like a very vocal person, right? And he has this monologue towards the end of the movie. And, at first we were a little concerned, but, I think he did an amazing job.
No, it's crazy because he's I don't know, Shaun, if you're a huge Dinosaur Jr. fan, but like I like them, but like he's like this, especially like I'm from New England, like he's like they're like legendary. Like them and Dropkick Murphys, I don't know. I always wonder if their legend travels as far it does outside of this area.
Right. Yeah.
But it's crazy to see that. But like I remember, I was doing an interview some years ago with Stephen Smith, who'd had from Fuse. He had that old Stephen's Undreaded talk show. And I think he was telling me some story about how like J Mascis gave his wife a hug, and then like they knew each other from like working in the music industry, and the amount of scene cred that he got because his wife knew J Mascis, like pretty fucking nuts. So like, what is the genesis of this movie? Did you grow up in the scene? I'm getting from watching it, I'm getting that sense.
Oh yeah,
it felt that way.
Yeah. Growing up in the scene and being around it for years and just seeing, how it changes and just, how the torch is passed on to different generations. That's always really appealing. And also as a LA musician, I kind of want to show a little bit of a background into what goes on when you're playing, some high profile show or whatever, or what it takes to like even get on a bill, which, even with its runtime, we didn't go too far into that sort of stuff, which is like, how difficult it is to book a show, how the booker never actually does their job and you have to do all the booking yourself and then have to figure out who's going to open. You're not going to end up headlining your own show, et cetera, et cetera. So, cover those kind of angles and then show that, to people that aren't too familiar with the music scene in general.
Where'd you grow up?
Orange County. So I grew up near the Fullerton area, Santa Ana, Orange. Hung out in Fullerton a lot. Used to go to shows at this place called McLean's and The Hub, which was like a pretty cool beatnik type of cafe that had an outdoor stage. So saw a lot of local bands. And then in Santa Ana, where I spent most of my teenage years, Coos Cafe, which is a really infamous spot out there that every band from like No Doubt to Sublime, Social Distortion played over there. It was a cool nonprofit former Chinese restaurant, basically a house converted into a venue. And I had a lot of friends that would volunteer there for, Food Not Bomb rallies and that sort of stuff. So it was pretty cool,
What years are you
and it was walking distance to me too, so.
What bands, what years are you active in your scene? Like, who were your big dogs? Like, were you getting to see No Doubt and all that stuff?
I didn't get to see those guys because this is like, I started going to Coos around maybe 98 through 2001. I think they had moved by 2001 or something like that. And this is on, like I said, it's in Santa Ana, or was in Santa Ana.
Shaun, were you a scenester as well?
No. I mean, sort of, but I was I'm here in Texas.
Yeah.
So it's a lot different than California. I mean, I used to spend summers. My sister lived in Southern California in the LA area. She moved out there when she like turned 18. Mm-hmm. So I used to go spend summers out there, but I didn't know the scene. I just walked around and to a Good Riddance and Propaganda too.
That's fucking awesome.
Nice.
I don't know if this is gonna like tank the interview or not, but like, were I think OC Supertones are from Orange County.
The Supertones?
Yeah. Right.
I never got too crazy into them.
Yeah.
But,
I didn't know they were Christian until years later.
I did not know that either.
Yeah. Ska doesn't go very far for credibility in one sense of the word, and then you throw Christian ska into it, and you're just like, ugh.
You're like, what? Yeah, no, and what? We did go through a huge ska revival out there.
That's what all I know of Orange. Yeah, all my knowledge of the Orange County scene is I'm just thinking ska.
All right.
I think it was even a
Did
HBR song.
you watch Pick It Up?
What's that?
Did you guys you seen Pick It Up?
No.
The ska documentary.
No, I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, it's, my buddy Taylor did it. It's excellent. You'll like it, and it really he got a lot of the big great ska bands from that time period, and they do a lot of animation, and they really tell the story of how ska. Oh, it's Tim Armstrong does the narration.
Nice. He was originally going to be in this flick, so
what?
That didn't pan out. Yeah. He was going to play the bouncer that we see throughout the flick. Yeah.
Your lineup is nuts.
I was like, I got a chance to hang out with him for a day, and it was pretty rad. And then, this is like maybe a year and a few months before we even started shooting, and then that just kind of fell by the wayside. But I was pretty stoked initially to have him on board.
I mean, just gonna hang out with Tim Armstrong.
Now then, did you understand what he said? Like what?
Yeah, he had just done that the stint on the new X-Files, so he was like craving to be in front of a camera again.
Oh.
I don't know if you guys ever saw that.
No,
I didn't see that. I didn't catch the updated versions.
Yeah, I only saw the clips from that episode specifically.
I was too afraid to watch X-Files.
Punk rock people show up and stuff like that. You're like, what? What are you doing at X-Files?
I love that. I love that stuff. Going back and not realizing that, like Lee Ving is in Clue and he plays, Mr. Body.
What?
I watched that movie all the time as a kid, and then, as a teenager, I went like, that's a dude from Fear.
I never knew that.
You didn't know that? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's awesome. You're like, what the hell,
I'm gonna have to go back and watch it because I've seen that movie a fuck ton. Holy shit.
I think John Doe from X is in Roswell. I think it was
the TV show.
NBC? Yeah, the TV show.
Yeah, it was on CW.
Yeah, CW. That's what it was.
Or maybe it was UPN back then.
Yeah.
Or the Paramount Network. It might have been. Wait, if we're going far enough.
With the frog. With the frog.
Yeah.
The WB.
You joke, but I'm a huge Veronica Mars fan, so I'm a.
Oh my gosh, that's a good segue into what I was going to tell you. So, talking of people popping into things in places, Chris knows this. Mike, you probably don't know this, but I'm working on a documentary about the podcast industry. And one of the people that we interviewed was Ira Glass from This American Life. And so I'm working on a section right now about it. And so I'm doing research into any kind of any appearances that he's been in. And they're apparently, him and his staff are all up in Veronica Mars, the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, her
boyfriend. And I don't know have you seen High Maintenance?
No, I heard it's good.
It's amazing. I just only seen the one episode, but I was looking, and they did an episode. It's like pretty much they go to a part of the story is one of the people on This American Life, one of the producers, like the story they're making for the show. So it has Ira Glass in it, and it has them in their staff meeting, kind of talking about putting a show together, and then even ends with him because something happens with the show and happens with the episode. I won't spoil it, but yeah, it's like, what does he do? What are these people doing here?
I just want to be one of these people.
I love that.
Yeah, he's one of those people that's famous, but no one knows it. Only entertainers know it.
Nerds.
And he did an episode of he did voices on BoJack Horseman, The Simpsons. There's an episode where Lisa's listening to This American Life. It's the episode where they go to the camp. The rock. She goes to the music camp. Do you remember that one?
I'm not good for the later seasons.
Yeah, it's 20 seconds. I think it's on 20 seconds.
Oh yeah, past 12.
I only know that because I've been going through all that shit. So.
Yeah, we've all had some time on our hands, I'd imagine.
Fully caught up.
No. I'm working on a section of the documentary right now. It's I'm putting together the section for Serial and This American Life and Ira Glass. I'm going through and pulling
that makes
content stuff. So I knew. Oh no, I was saying he has a pretty impressive IMDb, because he's been on the Colbert Report. He's been on Letterman and Jon Stewart. Can I see Jon Stewart again? Just a bunch of stuff that I was like, holy shit. Because most people don't know him. A lot of people don't know him, except for like certain people know who he is. But if you don't, not in a public radio or in that kind of stuff, you probably have no idea. So I'm trying to craft all the things like, hey, this guy is
Right. Build him up.
A cultural touchdown. He's showed up and all these things that you know. So anyway, I didn't mean to derail on that. I was just talking about.
No, encourage.
I was working on that today, and we were talking about like punk rock people showing up in weird places. Then you mentioned Veronica Mars, and I was like, had just been thinking like, oh, fuck is Veronica Mars? So anywho, so
that segues too. Mike.
I have questions. Can I ask questions?
Yeah, ask a question, bud.
So, Mike, I'm new to the Mike Club. I just saw the trailer. Well, he sent me the trailer and asked me if I wanted to hop on, and I was like, yeah, I'd like to do it. But I'm always interested in other filmmakers' paths. So, like, how did you end up doing film? Is it like, from what I can tell, you were doing music before, right? Does that make sense?
Simultaneously. This is my third feature. I'll be around my third feature. Kind of actually my fourth feature, but the other one's not done. The one that I started for the third. The last features that I did, one of them was called By the Wayside. That came out in 2012. So it's been like I've been, making a lot of stuff on my own for about 12 years now. We had a 3-year run doing this punk rock web series DIY as well. Just casting all my friends, big cast. Started off being a little bit, John Hughes influenced, melodramatic, and then it kind of turned into this Looney Tunes type of thing. So we were doing that for a few years, and it got really, really, really fun, but ridiculous, really over the top. So yeah, I've been doing this for about 12 years, just gathering friends and, putting a sort of self-identity, philosophical influence on all that stuff. And just, making stuff just because we just really enjoy it,
Well, fuck yeah, man. I mean, thank you, Chris, for asking me to do this and introducing me to other awesome filmmakers.
I saw it when it came, I was like, oh my god, I had to do it. And I was like, he probably wants to talk more about, you probably want to talk about about the filmmaking craft as well, but I know more about music than I do film. I was like, well, Shaun knows film and music, and always a good chance
balance it all out.
Yeah, so I figured it was the perfect way. What are people's reaction when you're asking Frank and Casey? I mean, am I wrong? Was one of them in Social? I know you mentioned Social Distortion, but wasn't one of them?
Okay, well, Casey started in Social D. He was the original drummer. I think that's him and Ness. He was telling me a bunch of stories, but we were also trying to shoot, and he really wanted to talk about the old days, and I was like, I need to sit down with him. And just hang out with him and get everything down. But he was talking about how they wrote most of Mommy's Little Monsters in I think his basement or Mike Ness's basement. So what's it called? Frank Agnew. The first time I heard the Adolescents, I think I was maybe 15, something like that. And that was a really, really incredible, memorable summer afternoon. It was one of those summer afternoons that could be made into a movie. One of those things that, you look back fondly in life. But I listened to that Blue album. I got it at this place called Bionic Records. And I was just blown away by the guitar sounds. Him and Rick Agnew's guitars. And I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. Even when I heard Christian Death and found out that, Rick Agnew was in Christian Death, I was like, no way, that's what that buzzsaw type of guitar sound is just really appealing to me. But anyway, when I was working on Oblivion, we ended up getting, I got Don Bowles of the Germs to appear in it, and he had a small recurring role, and this is a good 12 years ago or whatever. And we were really trying to get money to get this web series off the ground, and it was half hour too. And this is before Vimeo and all that stuff, really, really streaming streaming became
just
really
a little
popular.
Too early.
A little too early where people couldn't even play the episodes because they were also half hour long, so they wouldn't load or anything like that. But we still decided to keep going, even though I had actually a pretty decent pitch towards MTV, and they turned us down because they said kids weren't into this sort of music anymore. So whatever. So we don't want this. Put this out. And I kind of was gonna give up on the series, but I kept going. We kept making more episodes. And my whole idea before is that I wanted to have all these punk rock icons play the parents of all the characters that you see. you know. So that didn't pan out, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna reach out to Rick Agnew and see if he's down to play like this stoner promoter type of character. And he immediately responded, and I was like, that's rad. And then he's like, hey, I'm gonna tell you have another part for my brother Frank. He's interested. He's got to drive me up to LA. So do you have a part for him? And I was like, right on. So Frank and I became really, really close friends. And he appeared on Oblivion. He appeared in my first movie, Jerry Powell, which was like a crime comedy, like a really dark crime comedy, really weird. And he's also appeared in a couple of music videos that I've done. And then, you know, I was like, hey, do you want to be in I'll Be Around? And he's like, all right, cool, but I have to make sure I don't look like myself. So he, you know, bleached his hair, and he's wearing like that Hawaiian shirt, and he grew a mustache out. And we kept delaying shooting his scene. So he's like, when are we getting this done, man? Because I look in the mirror and I don't recognize myself anymore. And it was like, I think he was sporting that look for a good 3 months before we even shot. So I was like,
that's commitment.
But he committed to it. It was pretty cool. And then Jerry, he plays a henchman. He has his long hair. You know, he's in a suit with a gun. You know, so it was really fun to put him in these roles. And you know, I want to keep working with him and like make sure that he embodies different type of characters and does not look like his rock star self. You know what I mean?
I love that. So like from what I was reading about you too, it's like you have a guerrilla filmmaking style and stuff. Was there a crossover from like the DIY punk scene ethics that you kind of carried over into your filmmaking? Like, does your filmmaking and your music are like, do they kind of cross over a lot?
I mean, it totally correlates because, you know, when, you know, you're younger, you might not be able to afford a really amazing guitar. You may not be that talented, and you're like, I just want to get these emotions out, and I want to form a band, and I want to do this, you know?
Sure.
So it's the same thing with filmmaking. You know, when I was trying to get financing for like my first project and it wasn't happening, I was like, well, it's either I do this on my own and just, you know, take inspiration from, you know, like Kevin Smith and Robert Rodriguez or whatever and be like, I'm just going to do this on my own. I'm going to use all the money I've saved up and I'm going to learn that way, you know, which was the best thing I could do. Just like being on different people's sets, I realized that no one works the same. So film school doesn't make any sense. You know, I kind of learned the ropes that I had to learn in a few film classes or whatever. And I was like, I'm just going to go out and just do this. And I'm going to like make an idiot out of myself. I'm going to make bad decisions, but that's the only way I'm going to really be able to learn. Just like the same with, you know, playing a guitar and going on stage and figuring it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it really correlates. So, you know, it came down to, you know, nobody really wanted to finance I'll Be Around. They wanted it to be, you know, your typical focus on one band and their groupies kind of movie. Mm-hmm. Which I'm like, we already
almost
have
famous.
We don't need it. Yeah, we don't need to do that.
Yeah.
So and everything that we present, they wanted to change. They didn't like the ending. They didn't like how it's open ended. They didn't like that we're not really focusing on one protagonist. And I'm like, well, that's the point. We want to do something that's not typical.
Exactly.
You know. And so I was like, you know what? We're gonna just crowdfund this. You know, it is a movie about struggling artists, mainly in their, you know, mid to late 30s or whatever. So people were quick to help us get it off the ground and pitch in and all that jazz. And then, you know, it's just taking that same aesthetic, like I said, the punk rock aesthetic, and just doing it on your own. And it sucks, you know. Most of my friends, you know, they fill in as like sound person or script, whatever, anything you can imagine. Sometimes I'm like miking and directing a scene at the same time, which is a horrible experience. But you know, it's like you got to do it with the resources that you have. You know what I mean? That's not going to stop me.
Yeah, and that's the reason too. Honestly, Shaun, I want to invite you on because I know that's Shaun. I mean, also guerrilla style filmmaker as well. Like I just love to hear you guys geek out about this kind of stuff. It's so interesting to me. Like you just fucking do it. Like just fucking picked up the camera, made a movie. Like
I mean, why not?
Because
we do it. We're blessed with the technology now to be able to
pull
it off. You know what I mean? So.
But you know, I don't have whatever is inside of me is never like I should make a movie. And I guess everyone has a different version of that. Like for some reason I was like I should make a podcast. But like Shaun, you know, you just made you kind of jumped headfirst into making a fat rack. Like you just
I think it was ignorance more than anything.
Sure, ignorance is bliss. But it clearly worked out. But like,
I was like, oh, I can make a movie.
But you did.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I've brought this up several times before, but like when we started shooting I'll Be Around the second day, Jessica Gallant, who's the DP, and she shot most of Oblivion, or 95% of Oblivion, and she shot my second feature, By the Wayside. But we have a long decade plus relationship or whatever, but the second day, because this cast is insane, so you can imagine not having
a lot of people
trying to corral this cast and also work around their schedules, and people can't, which we've gotten used to. We're like, oh man, like character B can't make it, so we got to have a stand-in, and then we're gonna have to come back on another shoot date and get their coverage, and then maybe a master and work around stuff like that, which is insane. Which is why I became my own editor, because I'm like, I know how to plan these shots out and be able to cut them. I know how to make them work later, even though right now it looks like a chaotic mess. But I was so stressed out on the second day of shooting this thing, and my spirit went entirely down, and I looked at Jessica and I went, I fucked up. I should not have started this project. This fucking sucks. And she's just like, well, it's a little too late for that now. And I was just like, I just gotta go with it. You know what I mean?
Have you ever heard of the hype cycle?
The what? Sorry, I broke up there.
Have you ever heard of the hype cycle?
No, the hype cycle? What is
the hype cycle? Is like, the hype cycle, it's where most ideas or projects go. If you ever look it up, you can Google the hype cycle.
I gotta look this up.
I just wrote it down.
Basically, at the beginning, you're like, I can do this. You're really excited. You're looking at all the ways you can make it happen, and because you want to make it happen. And then in the middle, you end up what's called the trough of disillusionment.
You're getting discouraged, man.
No, because you're like, you start realizing what it actually, problems start popping up. Things happen, and like it seems like it's not going to come together. If you can push through the trough, that's where most projects and things end up dying in the trough. Like, this did not work out. If you can push to the trough, you can get to the other side of the hype cycle, which is like, we did it.
That's right.
It's like almost like D&D, like the trough. We're entering the forest of disillusionment.
I got lost in that forest for quite a while, man.
But every time I get lost in the forest of disillusionment, I remember that it's part of the process. I'm like, oh, okay, it's almost like a signpost. It's like, I got the part, okay, I hit the part where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. This isn't going to work. This is a total failure. Okay, I'm in the trough.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
And then I was like, I gotta take a breather. I'm gonna walk away real quick. I'm gonna scream a bunch, and I'll be back, and everything's gonna be cool, man. We're just gonna keep on going. But yeah.
The cool thing is you have probably like with something that you're doing like that, you have a lot of other people that are there now. So one of two things is like, oh well, you kind of have to do it because you've already got all these people behind you.
Saying, and they're like, what the hell's going on, man?
Right, dude. No, I got this. It's fine. It's good. I'm gonna shoot this off. It's okay. But then you have all those other people that are there, and then it reminds you like, oh, all these people believe that I can do this.
Right,
if they believe that I can do this, why don't I believe that I can do this? You know what I mean? So it kind of like hoists you back up. You're like, well, all these people think I can do it, so maybe I can do it. So it's making stuff is especially like long form stuff's really hard, man.
It's not as easy as like, for example, just picking up a guitar and coming up with a song and you're like, oh, that's cool, or like you took a really cool photo or whatever. It's just like, no, it's a long, arduous process. So by the time you're like, for this thing, for example, this took longer than anything I've ever worked on, and I'm like, I'm so over it at that point. Just
How long did it take?
Well, we did that crowdfunding campaign, and that was like a 2-month thing. And then we didn't even shoot for another like year and a half, I think, or something like that.
Jesus. Did you write for 10 months? Is that what
we kept rewriting because originally the movie was supposed to be more Slacker-esque. We were not going to return to the same characters. We really just wanted to show a day in a music scene. And we did change gears at one point writing it where we're like, man, we really like those characters. Let's bring them back. So the movie does have a day and night kind of feel where in the daytime we're just setting up, not even setting up. We're just throwing you amongst all these characters, and you got to kind of figure out who's related to who has to do with what. And then on the second half, and we do have a musical intermission at the hour mark of the movie, the second half is now night, and now we're dealing with all the repercussions of all the stuff that we set up in the first half of the movie that seemed like they were entirely irrelevant. So we started like cracking down on the script and taking out more of the meandering, like hangout aspect, which I really dig. And then even so, when we were shooting it, since I like actors to, ad lib a ton, get the scene across, get it down verbatim, and then now let's have fun with it, and extend it. I had to end up cutting all that stuff out at the end of the day because we would have an epic, crazy ass movie. You know what I mean? And it's still, you know, people have the complaint that it's still too long as is. But I'm like,
how long is it?
It's 2 hours.
And your first cut was what, 3?
The first cut was 3. We were going for like that whole like Robert Altman Nashville type of feel. And then we also wanted to do something like shortcuts.
Sure.
Which is just like snippets, vignettes of a bunch of characters throughout the span of a day or whatever. And just paring it down, I think even to 2 hours. I have a preferred cut that's an extra 20 minutes. And I think that those extra scenes that had a little bit more ad-libs really help with the padding and pacing. And you get more of like, I'm just hanging out. I saw one review where some guy was like, you know, it's just like lighting up a J and passing it around while you're walking around at a concert, and that's the feel for the flick. So I'm like, I think that's a good example, you know, going with no expectations and just hang out.
It made me so. I know you could not have planned for the events of the world to happen the way they did, but fuck, did this make me so nostalgic? Because I think if it came out and watched it, I would be like, oh my god, I love this. This is something I do. And now it's like, I'm 36, so I'm past my scene years, if you will. So like going to music, I have a kid. Like I'm already nostalgic for it, but now I'm like, oh fuck, there's like a chance my daughter.
And now you're really like,
yeah,
we got that response, and it's really bittersweet because you know we can't do that anymore. We can have that hang out with like large groups of people and go see a bunch of random bands and just wander around and get drunk and get high or whatever, you know. Just
going, especially like going to like a DIY festival where it's like I romanticize it in my head, but like I remember going to these like day long in the middle of the heat like hardcore festivals in like Connecticut at like a Knights of Columbus, and like in retrospect you hung out in a parking lot, a sweaty thing with no AC, and then like maybe a playground, and you bought snacks at the gas station. And to me it's the best moments of my life, you know what I mean? But it's nothing. I don't know. It's just you just fucking hang, and then like nothing happens, and then hopefully the last band kills it, and it's the most amazing experiences. I mean, I can tell you hours of like seeing these bands and then playing on the floor, or like in Connecticut every once in a while. I'm years out from Hatebreed, but like they would pop in and just like hang. Like Jamie Josta and Shaun Martin would just go to shows or do like a pop up, and you'd see these like hardcore legends. It's insane. But like your movie it made me feel that. It's like, oh my god, I've never been in a band, but like I've gone on like with friends and bands and stuff. Like just get into the venue at like 10 in the morning in like Hartford, Connecticut. What the fuck do you do all day? Smoke? Yeah, I don't know. It's great.
Hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Right.
So hurry up and wait. We gotta get there. We gotta get to the venue.
All
right, guys.
I appreciate
you. Okay, give it 2 or 3 hours.
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys sharing the Hive Cycle thing, because I think a lot of anyone who makes anything, no one ever really talks about that part. Usually it's just like, yep, everything was great, we all had fun, and I can't imagine even Shaun like making anything like your docs. Like the podcast is great, but I stay home and it's short. Like talking about doing the same project for years, oh my fucking god, that blows my mind.
I'm on 4 years on Lifer.
Wow.
Yikes.
And I think we're rounding up through almost 3 years from from the first inception of the idea for the podcast doc. Yeah, and that's at least we shot stuff the year before. So yeah, we've been shooting for 2 years, and then this is probably about 6 months before that I was producing, getting interviews lined up and stuff like that, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, and I work on it every day, and currently I'm working on it like 6 to 7 hours a day.
That's
hopefully.
Yeah, totally true, man. Were you with your Fat Records doc? Were you happy with the way it turned out? Was that what you envisioned initially?
When I kicked it off, it was the first thing I ever tried to make.
Uh-huh.
So like the first thing was going to be a little short, like a 20-minute short. So it's way beyond anything I would have expected. I mean, as you get better at, hopefully get better at doing this, there's things that I would have probably pre-planned better.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we did like 100 and some odd interviews. Like that, there's so much that did not end up in that movie. Like, yeah. I mean, we talked to like so many people, and like, I I got to work with some really talented people. Like, there's ridiculous animation in it. There's all these puppets. Like, and so when we did a crowdfunding thing too, and we were trying to get like $7,000, and we ended up raising like $30,000.
Oh wow.
So like, it expanded what I thought it was going to be as it went, if that makes sense. In the end, I mean, I'm very satisfied. There are parts where like they're tough to watch because I know I can do so much better now, but overall, like, I'm very happy with it. I mean, even during the lockdown, we're on Amazon Prime. We ended up getting distribution and all that stuff. And during the lockdown, like, we were trending on the front page of Amazon Prime here.
Nice.
And I was getting a lot of, and besides that, those people watching it, I was getting a lot of requests. So I put on our thing like, hey, watch it on Amazon Prime because we get credit for that. But if you don't have Amazon Prime or you don't want to pay for anything, just email me and I'll send you a link that you can watch it. I'd rather people watch it. And I got so many people from Italy that were locked down.
Oh,
and they're
yeah.
like, please, can I watch the movie? And I'm like, yes, here's the link. Thank you.
That's awesome.
So, like to have people want to watch your thing is always very satisfying, especially here we're almost 4 years. What was it, 2016 it came out? So here we are like 4 years later and people are, it's still relevant to, and I don't know, if people who like Fat Records, it'll probably always remain relevant at some level. So,
Right, of course, yeah.
I'm really very, very excited about the stuff we have now because that first movie was like I said, I just had no idea, and all these other two movies were so much more was put into the pre-production, the thought of where it was going, and also I know more about the hero's journey and the story circle, and a little more of the. Hopefully, maybe it's crap. Maybe the two other movies are garbage. And magic was that I didn't know anything.
That's where you get when you revisit something 5 years later. That's when you'll know how you really feel about it.
I watched it's the Fat Wreck Dog parts of it really are pretty good. I gotta watch the whole thing again. But I was just watching the Taylor Morton's the ska documentary I was telling you guys about.
Yeah.
Pick It Up. And me and him connected about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we have in my opinion, a very similar style, like the way we do documentary stuff. And so I was like, okay, this works. It's cool. The next ones will be nothing like that first one. Like even the way they're shot, the pacing,
yeah,
all the other kind of stuff. So it's each one is scary. They're scary because they're so big. it's not like you can stop after being 3 years into a movie.
Yeah, then you're like, oh man, I just wasted all this time.
Have you had that when you're making your stuff, Michael?
I did that with my first real feature that I pretend doesn't exist. I think it's one of the worst things in the universe, but we never actually. I think we probably had 2 shoot dates left on that thing, and I was like, I can't. This sucks. I'm not like this. Like I said, I made every single mistake I could possibly make, but I totally learned from it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of bad direction where you're like, can you do that angry but sad? And you're like, or like the worst possible direction in the world where like an actor's looking at you like, what the hell do you want from me, man? Like, do that angry but happy. And they're like, what the fuck are you saying, man? And I just I would be so caught up in the moment and just so nervous at the same time. And I have all these millions of ideas running through my head that it's just everything that came out of my mouth was just nonsense, So it took a lot of patience for the people that were involved in that just to kind of understand what I wanted to get out, But yeah, it's just, I love being able to go back and just go man, I'm pretty stoked. Like how you said, some of those parts are really good, and you can see your flaws, just where you've hopefully keep improving on them. You know what I mean?
That's the idea. I mean, I was pretty lucky that I had some people around me that were had been going through the process, or I had never shot anything or really edited anything before, like
Mhm.
seriously, except for like a couple things, like some music, a couple like 2 or 3 music videos and like this little tiny making of doc thing.
Yeah.
But I had the guys who did Filmage, the Descendants documentary, were here in Dallas. They were local as well, and it turns out I was kind of friends with some of them.
I dig that one a lot.
And they, and those guys, the editor who worked on that, and one of the guys that shot helped shoot and edit ours, and a mentor and a friend. Having those people were like bumpers, because I trusted them, and I tried not to have too much of an ego, and it's things that I wanted to do, but I would listen, and then a Fat Mike even was like, he's like, you can do it. He's like, I'll give you the songs. It's fine. He's like, just don't make it very long. And I was like, okay. So this whole time I was like trying to get it under an hour and a half. So which ended up being great for it, I think, because I think, especially like documentaries, I think that fiction is a little different. I do think with like a very specific documentary where especially with ours where it's not like we have like this big emotional arc.
Right.
It's really like we found those moments, but we're talking about this label and they didn't really have. They just kind of got popular and then got less popular and just kind of leveled off. Like it's not a.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Not like ours. And then everything was kind of all right. So I thought by keeping it, and we have another 2.5 hours of bonus content. So we had another a supplementary documentary that was another 35
So you have
minutes.
that available? It's out there?
Yeah, it was stuff that just didn't make sense. We had to cut it out, and we liked it, but it just, you could feel it, because we did a bunch of test screenings.
Right.
And you could just feel the energy in the room.
Just totally drop. Yeah, right.
I like that scene, but let's just get rid of it. And if people who really wanted to engage, who are really engaged, they'd want to see that stuff.
Yeah, of course.
And the beauty of that stuff is that you're not as tied to explaining everything, because they've most likely seen the movie if they're watching the bonus content.
Yeah.
So you're not having to, you are at least how I feel in the documentary. I'm usually having to kind of set everything up to. Why is this important? Well, you have to kind of know.
Yeah.
So the extra stuff, the making of stuff, we were able to put a lot of extra stuff in there. But that was the other guy that I worked with. He's like the Descendants doc is supposed to be 2.5 hours long, and one of the guys, Justin, fought against the other two co-directors and was like, no, we got to cut it down. It's got to be an hour and a half tops.
It's a lot of information, so you want to keep the audience engaged with that aspect,
Yeah, for me, it's like someone watching this that doesn't know who Fat Records is, can I keep them engaged? Because I think if you like Fat Records, you're going to watch the entire thing. Have you seen 1994 on YouTube?
No, what's that?
It's a documentary this guy made. He was in Australia, I think. He talked to Billy Joe, Fat Mike, the Rise Against guys. He got some really top people, but he wasn't able to clear the music, so the thing never really got on.
That's the problem that I had with the Replacements doc, where they couldn't use any music whatsoever. So then I was just so you just had a bunch of people that were fanatics, just talking about their love for the band, but we didn't get any actual information from the surviving band members or anything like that,
Yeah.
And I'm it makes for really.
That Fat doc would have been done if Mike wouldn't have agreed to do it. I mean, it was really him, and he says he was the top guy. Everyone, even though there's people at Fat that probably were not stoked that some rando is telling their life story. Totally. They have no idea what his, agenda is, but he was kind of he's kind of as far as I can tell, a fuck it and see what happens kind of person. And we had a whole thing where I was at punk rock bowling, and I ran into him. He's like, come to the punk rock house, and we ended up getting into his pool, and
nice.
It was weird. I put stilettos on, like a Propaganda shirt and stilettos. And
that's pretty rad.
But he just asked me lots of personal stuff, and I think he was trying to catch a vibe for if I was a shithead or not.
Yeah.
And that's when he was like, don't go too long. And then I remember after he saw it, I was like, it wasn't too long. He's like, what? I don't remember saying that at all.
Oh, wow.
He's like, whatever.
He's like enamored by the material. He's like, make it 5 hours, man. It's cool.
Well, I think he thought it was gonna be boring. He was like, it's gonna be boring, man. There's not anything interesting there. Because apparently some other guys had wanted to do a documentary that had asked him to do it, and he had told them no. And the reason I got to do it is because I didn't ask. I just gotta start doing it.
I like that. You seem to have that attitude too, just that punk rock, and you just fucking grab the camera, make the movie, just fucking do it. But like one thing I was like doing research and stuff, like I noticed like you work with a lot of the same people, and not like very like Judd Apatow or Adam Sandler. Like you've got like behind the scenes too. It's like so clearly.
I wish I could have Steve Buscemi on my stuff. Yeah, he actually almost played the hypnotist. We nearly had him. But with him, we wound up with Jonah, and I've been wanting to work with Jonah for years. But
I'm
we
a
almost had
huge
him.
Jonah fan.
That's rad.
Jonah Ray?
Oh yeah, Jonah Ray's in it too. Yeah. Which is so funny in the press release. It says Mystery Science 3000, but like I'm like, they're not gonna mention the Weird Al album he just made, and then I realized like, oh yeah, this is why they're PR people, because no one would be like Nerdist and I forgot what band he was in. Like I always accidentally say Screwdriver, which I know is not it at all.
No, it's not.
No, I know that's a Nazi band. So oh my god, I forgot what it was. I don't think they were big, but it was just like they're from Hawaii. I just, you know what? I don't know if you're like a podcaster like person, but like he's not like a huge celebrity by any means. But you know, Mystery Science is pretty huge. But I listened to his so many hours of his voice. I feel like I don't, but I feel like I know him. Like we have mutual friends. Yeah.
That's what I do love about podcasts. They just become,
I'm like, I think I know everyone.
They're my friends.
Yeah. The great, and then sometimes you get to talk to them, and it's like, this is crazy. I mean, you got to do that with your movie, but so clearly you're doing something. Like I like that you get to keep the same crew around. Like I forgot you said. Yeah.
Yeah, like as a huge cinephile, I love watching filmmakers, directors' films chronologically, and then seeing how they reuse. You know who their favorite actors are, and they'll even have them in very bit parts, but they'll at least make a cameo.
Yeah.
So, you kind of find your groove, these people that just like understand how you like the dialogue said, and they kind of snap into that world. And I think if you watch any of the 3 movies that I've made, you can kind of see that there's a certain style of acting, and so sometimes people that come on board that are brand new, that have never even seen my stuff, somehow it just like it just has this like crazy osmosis, and it ends up working out, and they end up sounding like they've been a part of this universe forever. And I also have because I'm a huge nerd, but I also have my own shared universe. So a lot of the characters are referenced in other movies or make cameos in the background and that sort of stuff. So.
Are you a huge Kevin fan? That's it. Wow.
He was the other person. I spoke to him in person, nearly nabbed him for the hypnotist as well. And
Shaun interviewed him.
What was that?
Shaun actually got to interview him. And I'm so fucking jealous for your doc.
In the podcast doc we're doing, we talk about Smodcast.
Oh, you do?
Do you know Josh? Do you know Josh Roush? The guy that does all his... he's in LA too. You should probably... He's a punk rock guy too. You should look him up. He did. He just shot a movie with Kevin. He does all Kevin's shit. Like he does all like in his records a podcast. Went on tour with him to do the
reboot tour.
The reboot tour. He films the pictures and interactions. He's a guy who does did a little documentary, a making of documentary about the reboot, and he's just him and Liv.
He did that. Okay.
Yeah, did you see that? Did you see what I'm talking about?
No, it's on my watch list because I had a couple of friends that watched it. And they said they got really emotional watching it, so I have no idea what that entails.
Me too. I did. I
cried
watching it.
I'm not gonna lie.
Wow. Okay. I gotta watch this as soon as possible.
It's the best thing he's ever made.
It's not like something. It's not. I mean, it's not like flashy or anything like that. It hit it hit a really good spot. The guy, Josh, I'm going to talk him up a lot. Everyone should go. I forgot that we're on a podcast. So we should hang out. Everyone should go check out Josh Roush and Liv's work. She has a band called Byproduct. And they're married. They have one of the, what is it, marriage goals or whatever?
Yeah. Squad goals.
she's like a producer. She's like produced shows for like Netflix and does all kind of like that kind of stuff. You know, he's a punk rock guy and shoots all Kevin stuff, and like she plays punk rock, so she wrote an album. So they went to one of his places, got his friends to play on it, and then did a whole album. Then he shot all the videos, and these cool videos that he's done for her. And then they've been working on a script, and then Kevin helped them raise the money to get some of the money for it. But he's also in it. She's producing it, and I think some of this music stuff ties into it. So it's like he's another punk rock filmmaker. Is the reason I bring him up. And the reason I mention him again is because we went to go do Kevin Smith's interview, and you know how it is with handlers, people's handlers, like actors and people who are like have any kind of status. They usually have a handler that allows the actual person to be nice, but the handler can be the person that's kind of the tough cookie. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So they can kind of lay the law down because they're protecting that person's time. And so Liv was that kind of person, and we were kind of like, we need, you know, trying to get all the Kevin stuff taken care of. And I was like, you know, she's kind of a little bit of a hard ass. And then when we were setting up, we were trying to find a spot, and Josh had their stuff all set up, and we were kind of like, hey, can we do this stuff? And I noticed that he had a punk rock jacket on with the spikes and all that stuff. So I was like, hey, man, you like Fat Records? He's like, yeah. I was like, I made the documentary. He's like, oh, cool. And so we like totally the whole night had our back. Even though Kevin, you know, he's doing his thing, and we're kind of waiting around, and we didn't want to say anything because it was like he's giving us his time. But Josh kind of noticed and was like, hey, Liv, what's going on with Kevin? You know, just kind of very subtle in the background, kind of having our back. And super rad dude, makes cool stuff. So, yeah, check out. I was just doing a whole spiel for Josh there.
No, Reboot is surprisingly good. I think there's like, besides it just being a good movie, it was like, I'm a huge fan of his podcast and his movies too. But like, it felt like he grew up as a filmmaker. Like, he always like shits on himself for not being a good director, and maybe I can agree with it for certain movies he's done. Like, it's whatever. But like this movie, like it was the most beautiful shot movie he's ever done. Like, I felt like he like came full circle, and the whole dad stuff kind of really hit me. No, that makes so much sense. Cause I know you mentioned Slacker, and then hearing Kevin Smith, I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like I totally get that sense. I'm surprised that they didn't lean in like the tone of your movie. It definitely has like, yeah, the Slackers, Kevin Smith feel like that. It's very
talky. It's a very talky movie.
Where can everyone see your movie?
It's gonna be on Amazon Prime starting September 23rd.
Awesome.
And then
everyone stream that a bunch. Just watch it on repeat.
Just watch it on repeat over and over.
I definitely will.
Leave it on in the background.
On the room when you go to bed and put it on mute. Play it for your plants. Play it for your house, your pets. Yeah.
Pets will love it.
That's sweet. Congratulations, man. That's fucking rad.
Oh man, yeah. Thank you. Thanks so much for your time for doing this with us. I'm so excited. I'll send it to you, Shaun. So it's Amazon Prime, but before is it? What's the way where we could watch it to give you the most money directly? Is it through your website, or is it rent it on the Prime, or?
We do have it. I think it's still up on Vimeo, possibly. I don't think it's been taken down yet. But if you go to ibafilm.com, you can scope it out and read about everyone involved in the flick, all that jazz. ibafilm.com. I'll be around. IBA is what we call it.
Beautiful website too, by the way. Whoever did it.
Oh, thanks for scoping it out.
Total website envy. I love mine, but like my producer made our website. So she gets we scope everything out to like steal ideas and like, holy fuck, this is nice. And then are you like a social media guy, or are you just more like, or not?
I'm on. Are you guys on Letterboxd at all?
What's that?
That's like the social media site for cinephiles where you can review movies and all that. But I mainly use it for my own personal film diary. Oh. So with this, you know, with all this downtime that we've had, I'm like watching about 3 movies a day. So I'm constantly logging stuff on there. So I'm on Letterboxd daily. And I have an Instagram that I post a bunch of random stuff on my stories too.
Nice. What do you watch? What your movie? Just curious. Are you gonna do like a Marvel?
What did I watch? I don't know if I do a Marvel rewatch, but let me see. I did. I thought about watching my favorite ones of the franchise.
Is it Ragnarok?
But I've been like, yeah, I really dig Ragnarok. But what's it called? I'm trying to even remember what I watched this morning because I watched so much stuff that like even stuff from like a week ago. I'm like, I don't even remember how that movie ended.
My brain is wiped.
But I do not remember anything.
I have to watch YouTube videos about like recaps of TV shows I watch. Like I watched Better Call Saul, and I have to go on after and watch a recap because I'm just like, what did I just watch?
Like,
my brain I just can't contain any more information.
You know what I've been watching lately on Amazon? It's streaming. There's both of them are streaming. Is have you seen Samsara?
I haven't heard of that.
Never either.
Samsara and Baraka. It's this. It's a cinematographer. They're documentaries, but they're really. There's no dialogue. There's no like strong story plot. It's really like long, usually really long takes. Either sometimes regular speed, but sometimes like it'll be like a city sped up. Or it'll be like certain things in slow motion, and it's like a scene will be like a bunch of like chicks like being sorted in a factory, and then it'll like juxtapose that against like if you want a subway in Japan like sped up, so you see all the or like Mecca where people go like there's like these shots of at Mecca but it's sped up, so you see like the twirling. I mean, I'm not even doing nearly it justice, but it's really like a visual kind of thing. Yeah. I think the score, but what I've been doing is kind of like having some other kind of music on, and just have that on, and like have it on repeat and Baraka. And I'm actually going to be stealing a bunch of stuff from like B-roll ideas from it because it's just like it's like B-roll. This is what I describe it. It's B-roll so good, it's a whole movie.
Oh yeah.
It's like and it's streaming. I highly recommend both those, especially for visual storytelling. Like it's. But also, it's just breathtaking, some of the stuff. Man, it's just,
that's awesome, man. So, Shaun, where can people find you online?
I'm Open-Ended Films, pretty much across the board there, like on the Instagrams. On Instagram, I don't post that much unless it's something happens. Twitter, on there, retweeting either, like sometimes political stuff and all that kind of shit, getting angry. And then those are two main places I would say.
Awesome.
Twitter and Facebook. I don't have a TikTok. Yeah.
You should get out. It's fun. Awesome, man. Mike, thanks so much.
I'm gonna learn how to scratch, and I figured I'll do a TikTok as I learn to scratch.
I love it. Awesome. Oh man, thanks so much, man. Mike, for your time, and I'll let them know. We'll get